It's your boy Neeps, aka Watch with Neeps, and I'm here with a special guest today, Miriam. Welcome to our show.
Hi. Hello. Hi, Anib. It's great to be here. So excited.
I am so happy you're here. I We do not have Jazz today because Jazz has a lot of stuff going on. You know he's special. He's got a lot of important things going on. But I knew we had to do an episode on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the first person I thought of to have on my show is my friend Miriam because the first time I met you,
Awesome. Honored.
all we did was talk about Avatar. So
Honestly,
felt like I
yeah.
had to have you on here. I had to have you on here.
Like so honored, first of all. Like anyone who knows me knows this is like literally, I mean, just like in terms of television shows, there's not many shows that like exceed Avatar as an animated series. Like even
Mm,
compared to non-animated shows, live
yeah.
action shows, it is literally up there with the greats. Like
Really?
I would
Wow.
say so. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but
Okay.
I think it's one of those generationally like impacting shows because you see anyway, I'm already going into my rant, but it basically goes it has appeal from honestly like young Gen X's to millennials to Gen Z's. This is a
Yeah.
cross-generational show. It's a family show, and it's also a show that you can watch by yourself and like get
Oh
moved by.
yeah. For sure. So, are you talking about, because I want to be clear, are you talking about Avatar the animated show, or are you talking about this Netflix show? Because this Netflix show is getting mixed reviews.
Yeah.
It's not everyone's not 100% on
Yeah.
board with this. Uh, and I want to dive into both sides of that. So when you're talking about this, are you talking about this live action show or just the show in general?
So I am specifically talking about the legacy that Bryke has created. So any super fans in the
Ah,
live chat know Bryke is the portmanteau of Brian and Michael
okay.
Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, who are the creators of the animated series. And then we can,
Gotcha.
yes.
Gotcha.
So
All
that's
right,
the legacy
I
that
wanted
they
to clear that
started.
up.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Because that legacy, I mean, I will call it a legacy at this point because it's been almost 20 years since the
Yeah.
show came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway.
Okay, because we already got some people in the comments, and some of them are saying it was a rough watch. Some said they were
Mhm.
a little disappointed,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's animated for life. Oh my god, someone is like, Aang is insufferable. Oh my god, the comments are insane right now. So we're gonna dive into this, guys. We're going to talk about all your comments. We're going to break down the episode, but we are only doing the first four episodes. So in the chat, I would recommend that you guys don't spoil anything past the fourth episode, even though we've all already seen the the cartoon, the animation. We know what's gonna happen. It's like it's weird to say don't spoil it when everyone's like, gotta know what's going on.
Honestly, though, we can even talk about that because my goodness, the narrative switch up, we can discuss that
Yeah,
for days.
yeah. So I all right, let's talk about the big thing. So someone said Aang is insufferable. Let's talk about the acting on this show. I do not like a lot of the people's acting on this show, and mainly Aang and Katara. And it sucks because they have so many scenes together. Like you if you have somebody who's the main character of the show and they're going to be in majority of the scenes, they need to be able to carry the show. And I don't think Aang or Katara can do that. And I hate to say this because they're young kids, man. They're gonna get better. It's fine. But it was rough. It was rough, buddy. In the words of Zuko, that's rough, buddy. Uh, but there was also a lot of great acting. I think Iroh did a great job. I think Zuko did a great job.
Amazing.
Fire
Yeah.
Lord
Yeah.
Ozai did a great job. So there
Yes.
are a lot of people
Yeah.
who are doing a great job, and there's a lot of people who are not there. What are your thoughts about the acting on the show?
Yeah, honestly, I do agree with you, like, to some effect, and I would say, like, overall, because of the acting, because of some of the narrative choices they've made, I am sort of kind of removing myself almost from the animated series, which sounds very hard to do because obviously
Yeah.
gigantic shoes to fill. I mean, also Bryke, and then like just as a preface, like that's Brian and Mike, the creators of the series, animated series. They left like midway through development,
Yeah.
and so like the thing is there was already like for super fans, for fans, like we were already like, kind of skeptical about this whole thing.
Side-eyeing the whole thing after that,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, like honestly, the thing is, here's my thing. Like I'm just not expecting to this to be exactly like the animated series. Like I'm just seeing it, treating it as a whole, kind of like almost as a whole other project. I don't want to say that, but it's like anyway, I will say, okay, sorry, back to acting. Sorry. I'm like, dang, this is like such a no, but
We got time, relax, it's okay. Aramse.
yeah, so no, the acting, yeah, so like yeah, I will say, so I really do love Aang. I think he's just absolutely adorable. Oh my God,
Mm.
like such a little cutie pie. So I think, yeah, he's just I actually really like that they just have really captured his innocence.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. I do think he does a great job with Aang, and I think he does kind of have like the heart of the show in a little bit of the way, But okay, the biggest disappointment absolutely is Katara.
yeah,
Um, Absolutely, she's my favorite character. Yeah, that oof. Yeah, oof. That was honestly, and I'm trying to like, it's so bad because I feel like I am trying to give them so many concessions because
yeah,
I really, really think they did a really good job for what the expectations were, like in
yeah,
my opinion. So I feel like I'm filtering this all through that like lens.
that's fair. For
So, but again, like I do feel like had she been more like the Katara we know and love, the chemistry between the characters might have been
that's a
a little bit weird and like not as believable
I'm
because
glad you
again,
used
this is
that
a
word.
live action show.
I'm glad you used the word chemistry because I think
Yeah.
that's one of the main issues. The big
Okay.
3 don't have chemistry,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that is really, really important.
Yeah.
And, like
Okay. Yeah.
and I do think Aang is actually does a good job acting, but not with dialogue. When he's just acting in terms of like, doing like physical acting, like he's acting like a little kid and jumping up and down and doing these stunts, he does a great job at that. But then when he has to deliver lines and he's
Yeah.
delivering lines to Katara, it almost feels like an SNL skit where somebody's reading lines and not
Mm.
acting the lines,
Oh.
right? That's how I feel when I
Yeah.
hear his dialogue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
takes it takes skill. Like acting is not easy. Like it's hard. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be like this motherfucker can't act when like I know for a fact I can't act, but it's because it's difficult. But it
Yeah.
it is it
It
is
like
tough.
the delivery of his lines has actually like taken us out of the scenes. Like we are actually like
Yes.
mentally, we're like, wait a minute, like is this? I'm just watching a show now. Like I'm not fully in it anymore. No, you're right. I mean, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm so see the thing is, I honestly I don't know why I feel protective. It's so weird. Like I'm just like, oh my God, like Asian American like showrunner like Albert Kim and like all the like cast. I don't know. I'm like, I feel like I don't know if it's protectiveness in a way, but it's just really cool to see kind of like, Asian American sort of like helm this project. And so I think maybe I'm a little like, I don't want to say I'm protective, but
Yeah.
it's just like I do choose to like see some of those things maybe a little bit more, but it's also very important to be critical so we can like keep moving up.
I agree. I agree. I want to dive into some comments real quick. We got some really good comments. Uh, we got Nuv. He says it feels like they were stripped of their emotions and personalities. The actors seem really fun and engaging, but the character lacks character. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that is fair. And we got a few more comments. Someone said, it was nice that she was First Nation, but I don't believe she fits the role. And that's one of the things that makes me feel a little weird because I do feel like of the 3, the best character was actually the best actor was actually Sokka. I think he does the best job. But there's
100%.
controversy around him because he is not native and ended up claiming to be native, and that's
So
the whole
he's not
thing.
native? What was the deal with that? Like
So
he's not.
basically, I think he said he was Cherokee, and then when people went and they found out, the Cherokee Nation were like, "He's not registered with us. We don't know him. He can't sit with us." I don't know what the thing is. I'm not First Nation, so I don't really feel comfortable speaking on it. But
Yeah,
this is like
yeah.
a controversy that's out there, right? But that being said, facts are facts. Objectively, I do think he is the best actor of the three, probably because he is older, he is more experienced. But he does a good job. He has connections with Suki. He has connection with some other people, with
Yeah.
Abed, who's in this show.
Yeah.
So he has
Yeah.
chemistry with other
No.
people,
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's such a good point. No, you're right. He has chemistry. Exactly.
but not
No,
with
you're so
Katara and Aang, who he needs the most
yes.
chemistry with.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, like he has chemistry with them, I would say. But yeah, they definitely like Katara and Aang come across as more like not as comfortable in their roles or just maybe not as experienced actors. Even though Katara has acted in a few other projects,
Yeah.
she was like in this show called like this I forget Rutherford Falls. I think she like
Mm.
guest starred in that, and she's been in like a few things. So
Yeah.
this
I
isn't
don't.
her first. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
understand why that is, but I also kind of feel like they picked people who look the part more than people who could act, because they look
Yes.
good. Like
Yeah.
Katara looks like a
Yeah.
great Katara, Aang looks like a great Aang, Sokka
Yeah.
looks like a great Sokka. Like these people do look the part. Like, so
Yeah.
I can't take that away from them. But looking the part is not enough, right? I rather someone not look like Zuko, but like can still act like Zuko.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
you
and
know,
speaking of Zuko, I love Zuko as
me
well. I think
too.
Zuko, oh my gosh, hands down. He's doing Dallas
Carries
Blue.
this show. Him and Iroh carry this show.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, I like wait for their scenes.
Me
Like
too. Me too.
literally. No, yeah. No,
The
honestly, that's I feel like I'm making like so like that's honestly so true. That key point that Katara and Aang do not have chemistry with their other castmates. And if they do have chemistry with the castmates, is because the other castmate is holding it down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally believe.
Yeah, yeah,
Someone said, I mean, if you get a cast for a show, they're spending big bucks on you. You should be able to act. They should have maybe, spent some acting lessons on them. And like, listen, sometimes you get really lucky. Like we got really lucky with uh Iman Vellani with Captain Miss Marvel.
Miss
Like
Marvel.
no acting experience at all, came
Wow.
in, killed it, chemistry with every single character. Like this show made me appreciate her even more, that she had no acting experience, nothing, genuinely just went in, killed the show. She stole other people's movies. Larson is an Oscar nominated actress, maybe Oscar winning actress, and
I think
she's
she did win. She did win
right.
actually.
And
I'm pretty
Iman
sure.
Vellani steals her movie. Like that's incredible to me. So
Wow.
like, you can see, you can appreciate other people when you see like this. Like this is how a normal person who doesn't know how to act would act. So some people are blessed, some people are talented, and
Some people, yeah.
I don't think Katara and Aang were that lucky. All right,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
we,
yeah,
we gave our breakdown. We gave like what our thoughts about the gripes or some of this stuff. Let's
yeah.
break down
Yes.
the episode, man. So the beginning of the
Yes.
episode, I had hopes because we actually see some amazing earth bending, unlike the M Night Shyamalan movie where they do like stomp the yard for one rock to fly across the screen.
So cringe. Yeah. It's
Oh
like
my
we don't
god.
that's like buried in our past. Like we don't we all have like collective PTSD from that terrible
Look,
movie
say
from
what you want about the
2010.
M. Say what you want about the M Night Shyamalan movie. We have never had a bad Zuko. We have never had a bad Zuko. Dave Patel was
Yes.
not the reason. Dev Patel
Yes.
was not the
Yeah.
reason that movie sucked. He did a
Yes.
great
Yeah. He
job.
carried it. He
Yeah.
carried it.
And the voice actor did a great job for the original and the actor for this one. So we've never had a bad Zuko. That's my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right. And Dante Bosco, we
Dante
stand.
Bosco. We stand
The
him.
OG.
Ah, I always do that. That's rough, buddy. That's my favorite line.
Love that.
I am counting down the days to that line because if we do not get that line, I will riot. I will riot. That's all I want from this show.
Honestly, that would just like make everything like at least they put that line in. Like we can be
Yes.
okay. Like Yes,
I
no.
have a question. What are your thoughts about Azula? Because I've heard mixed things
Oh,
about her, and a lot of people said that she's not psychotic enough. But Azula's not even in book one, so like I
yeah,
don't really see a problem with that. I rather see a gradual like psychosis of her, where she's like getting crazier and crazier by every
exactly.
season, than her
Yeah,
just
it's too
start
early.
off like a crazy person.
Of course, because that was the whole like amazing draw of Azula as a villain. I mean, she's kind of like who you wouldn't expect. And it's like in the animated series, it was the slow burn, you know? She started off like we didn't know her, like she was, just introduced. We didn't even know she was really like evil, right? Like
Yeah, we
we
didn't.
I mean we knew that she had some, there was some like trauma there, generational trauma,
Oh yeah.
now you can like um but that wasn't a like there was like hints of that, but it was, I mean, because she's a very complex character, and so I think we need to. I mean, she's barely in it in the first 4 episodes. I mean, she's like she's in it for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So
She's
there's really,
there's a there's potential. Like I don't think she's at
yeah,
the level of Katara and Aang. I think there's potential there.
I have high hopes. I have
Yeah,
I have some high hopes for her.
I did like Ty Lee. I thought she was pretty good.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
the other girl, I think May is her
May.
name.
Yeah,
Um, her, I think she didn't. I think she did a decent job. I just feel bad because the internet is a piece of crap. People there, and they're being really
yeah,
mean to her because she's
really.
not the body type that
Uh
people expect, which
Well,
I
I
think
think
is
they're saying the same thing about Azula too, right? So it's kind
yeah.
of, I feel like these criticisms are more rooted in like misogyny.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm gonna put it out
100%,
there, but it's
100%.
misogyny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of gross, and they're
Yeah.
children, bro. Like, come on, they're children.
Yeah, they're
Wha-
literally, I know that like the Azula is dating the guy from Stranger Things, Gaten Matarazzo.
What?
Dustin from Stranger Things.
She's
They've been in
dating
a long term,
Dustin?
they live together. They've been in like a long term
Wait,
relationship for
are they
years.
not children? What are they like?
They're in like their early 20s. I know they're
Oh
so
my god,
little like compared to
I know.
but they're
I
like in their early 20s, I think.
okay, okay, interesting,
But I was just
interesting.
like, Stranger Things is such a huge show, and like
Yeah,
I'm sure, like, I mean, I think like, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't, obviously that's a whole that's like their personal lives, but I have this feeling that like talent recognizes talent, so that's my
yeah.
theory at least.
Ooh, I like
So
that.
right? So it's like, hey, like Dusty, great actor. We all
Yeah,
believed him. Also, Stranger Things was very well written as
yeah,
well. And
yeah,
like literally the pacing was phenomenal. But I honestly I have high hopes for Azula. I'm just gonna say it. And I
yeah.
I I have high hopes for May as well.
Okay,
Anyway.
cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I think so too. I feel like I have not written them off. I feel like they haven't shown us
Yeah.
enough
They were
to
in it
us.
for like two
To,
seconds. Like
yeah,
there's like
I
two lines.
I agree. I don't think we've seen enough. We got some comments here. I want to read them
Yeah.
out. Zuko and Ira are easily standouts. I feel like they speak more to the character and the source material, though. You'd really have to try hard to mess up Zuko and Ira's relationship. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, Azula's portrayal is frustrating to me.
Okay.
He says it's not about Azula being crazy, but rather being completely poised and self-assured, which is what makes her unnerving because she knows she's always in control. But I agree, but I still think it's too early to tell. It's
It's
too
too
early.
early.
We can
Yeah, we
get
got
the Azula we all want, and I think she's coming, and I think this actress can do it. It's not like nails on the
yeah.
chalkboard every time she speaks, which some other actors I might say that too.
So I'm gonna say for the Gen Zs in the audience, because I feel like there are probably a few, I'm gonna say let them cook. Let
Yeah,
them
let
cook,
them cook.
guys. Let them
Yeah.
cook.
All
Let them
right, I like
cook.
that. I like that. All right, so we start this off back in the day, during Sozin's Comet, and the Firebenders ended up actually tricking the Earthbenders because they wanted them to, go ahead with this plan. So I really wanted them to explore this more because I love this timeline. Like, I want to know what's happening there. I want to know why Roku wasn't able to stop Fire Lord Sozin, right? Like, I want to know what happened there. I
Yeah.
believe people who've read
Yeah.
the books know, and I think there's a little bit of like exposition where people find out. But
Mm.
like, I was really hoping we could see that, but obviously we did not. I think Roku was already dead by the time this whole thing is going down. And then we also see Aang at the air nomad tribe, and he's kind of just being a kid. A lot of people were mad because they thought Aang was flying, but I don't think he's flying. I think he's just using airbending to slow down his falling. In the words of
Mhm.
Buzz Lightyear, he's not flying, he's falling with
Falling
style.
with style.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I would have liked to see his glider more in the scenes. I mean, his glider is such a big like part of who he is, and
Yeah.
like it helps his airbending, it streamlines his airbending. So it is a little bit, in my opinion, kind of like messy and weird to just see him like chaotically like going
Yeah.
going everywhere, because the other thing about airbenders is they're all about like balance and kind of like, they're about like being steady, and well, sorry, not like that, but it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's a little unhinged. It just
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
unhinged. I didn't
I
like
get
that.
that. I get
Yeah,
that.
it was a little weird,
Um, we
but
see his mentor Getsu, and he's telling him about, like, hey, you're an airbender. Yeah, you're really great at all these things. But we're gonna need you to save the world. You're going to be a big deal. And Aang kind of, being the kid that he is, decides to, blow off some steam and go out, and he gets caught in the iceberg, which I think happened. And then there is a massacre at the airbending tribe, which is really interesting because in the cartoon, I think in one of the last books, Aang disguises himself as a Fire Nation kid, and he goes to school and he learns about propaganda. And they were like, the Air Nation and the Fire Nation were never at war because the Air Nation doesn't have an army. They're pacifists. Everything they do is in defense. But the Fire Nation is teaching them things through propaganda, which, like, I'm like, sounds a lot like things that are happening right now. There is a country being
hmm,
attacked who doesn't have
yeah,
an army, and they're
yeah,
being massacred at the moment.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can't tell me there aren't parallels here.
I can't lie. The first episode, I literally sobbed my eyes out. Like, especially given like the world, like the events happening in Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
like, the genocide. um yeah, I don't know, like it just was like, I was like, dang it, like
I
if
know.
Instagram doesn't make you mentally ill, or just like, so, like collectively we're all just like suffering so much just from looking on Instagram and seeing all the like all the,
The violence, yeah.
I don't want to say violence, like literally like deplorable stuff every
Yeah.
single day, every like, because I mean, it's just like you can't look away from that. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just like, oh my God, yeah, it just, I
Even
have
the
no words.
beginning,
I
I felt
stopped.
like is very similar to what's happening because we have these Fire
Yeah.
Nation people in one of the scenes, and they're like trying to overthrow their own government, kind of. And Azula kind of tricks them and leads them to the Fire Lord, and he's like, "Aren't you happy? We're the greatest nation in the world. You have all this access to this." And they're like, "At what cost?" Right?
Mhm.
And like, even that I feel like is
Yeah.
parallels. There, Israel has free education, free healthcare,
Yes.
all of these
Yes.
things,
I
but
just
at
learned
what
that.
cost? But at what cost, right? So
Yeah.
it's
I'm literally
crazy.
like, the more I learn about like the Israel and Palestine, and or the farther the rabbit hole goes so deep. I literally just learned about the free healthcare and the free education that's
Yeah.
actually financed by America. Literally
Yeah.
30% of Israel's healthcare industry is privately funded.
That's crazy.
And we all know who those private donors are. Let me just say, they are Americans.
We can
Absolutely.
probably do an
Zionist.
entire episode on just the similarities of like the Fire Nation and Israel. Like, I feel like that alone, we could just do one entire episode. In fact,
No.
I may do that. I may actually do that.
I
But
was on Twitter the other day and I
yeah,
found this awesome, like someone had created like Aang, and then it said like Free Palestine, and it was like Aang holding up a Palestinian flag.
yeah.
And I just saw that the other day. It made my heart really happy.
But you know what I
Yeah.
also like about the similarities and the parallels of Israel and the Fire Nation is there are a lot of Israelis and Jewish people who
Yes.
are anti-Zionist, and
Exactly.
and that reminds me of Zuko, and
Yeah.
to undo all of that brainwashing and undo all of that, like manipulation, that is so difficult to get over. And like every time I see someone who's Jewish or Israeli and they're anti-Zionist, and I'm just like, that takes so much guts. That takes so much strength. And Zuko is like the perfect character to really display that. And that's
Yeah.
the reason he's everyone's favorite character, because what he goes through is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. I mean, like his character arc, I think, is one of the most satisfying parts about the cartoon.
Yeah.
Um, like it's yeah, his redemption arc and like his especially his reunion with Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful scene. I mean, that's like I think the part of Avatar that we all love is, the characters, they're just so like just so well made.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really hard for people not to do the parallels. Like Nuv says in the comments, like so many parallels. He
yeah.
just started watching the show in November, and everything is hitting so much more
Oh
because of what's
my
going on. That's
gosh.
crazy. What a
Wow.
time to start watching. That's crazy.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow. No, dude. I mean, honestly, I will say the way that they portrayed the genocide of the air nomads,
Yeah.
I think they did a very good job with how it was portrayed. Honestly, I would say the first episode was probably my favorite episode of the four.
Yeah.
Um, the exposition, how they like, they didn't reveal too much, but they told us everything we needed to know. It flowed really well. Yes, the acting with Aang and Katara was cringe. Definitely took
Yeah.
me out of it. I was like, kind of like, okay, they're kids, like it's fine. We'll forgive
Yeah.
it. But no, I would say it moved along really well, and it got us, and like we kind of they taught us everything we needed to know. It wasn't confusing. Um, so I wanted to ask you also, what did you think of like them combining all these different episodes, narrative arcs into like one or two episodes, like in Omashu and in
Yeah.
like the one before that?
Yeah, so the thing with that is I don't mind it. I do feel like they have to do a lot in a short amount of time. But I do not love the fact that like they're telling these entire storylines with just exposition. It's all
Mm,
over the place, and it's being told by people who aren't really that good at acting. So that makes the
mm,
exposition even
mm.
like both even more flat. And I think
Okay.
that is kind of the only issue I have. That I don't mind
Mm,
them rushing things. I know they took away Sokka's sexism, and that people were like,
mm,
Sokka was a lot more sexist, and it was
mm.
part of his character growth, which I'm
And but
like,
and then that would have also activated Katara because that's how we learn that she's so fiery and outspoken because of
right.
that first scene in when they're fishing and
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
like literally saying like why are you here, like you should be in the tent like helping, and they
Yeah.
did like helping the women, and they did kind of brush upon it
Yeah.
in the first episode, but it was very like it fell kind of flat and I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
Katara, you could have been such a good character.
I know. But in their defense, here's the thing. They have so few episodes that like the more sexist you made him, the longer it takes us to get over it, right? So we need to like Sokka right away. We need to like him by the time he meets Suki. And he meets Suki in episode 2,
Yeah.
right? And if you want to root for both of them, you have to like both of them. So you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
spend 3 episodes of Sokka being sexist to have
Yeah.
this great arc if you
Yeah.
need to like him by episode 2, and I
Yeah, that's
understand
fair.
that's very difficult.
That's
And
fair, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's one of the
Yeah.
things where like, yeah, like I totally agree that like they're rushing things
Yeah.
and they're putting everything together. Um, but
Yeah.
there's sacrifices got to be made. I totally understand that. And we also got to remember like the animated series isn't going away. We still have that to enjoy. In fact,
Yeah.
I feel like someone who's never watched the animated, it'd be even more entertaining to watch this and then go back and watch the animated, which is even more rich and it has more episodes and it has more like context. I think that would be even more fun. But we're all doing it backwards, so it's not as enjoyable for us.
I've been kind of watching them back to back to compare.
Ooh, smart.
So actually, like after the Omashu episode, I went and I watched the King of Omashu episode of the cartoon, and I noticed like, so okay, I want to ask you, what did you think about the like South Asian influence of the Kingdom of Omashu? Very interesting.
I was happy because here's the thing, right? A lot of things up from Avatar actually come from Hindu culture, right? A lot of it, like the word Avatar is a Hindi word,
Right.
so it feels right for them to include South Asians in this what you call a storyline in this narrative, even though like a lot of it was East Asian based and native indigenous based when it comes to the characters, but when it comes to the lore, a lot of that was from our culture, and I think they did a great job to include that. Ung is ang ung is a Hindi word also, right? Agni, the
Really?
Agni, what's the name? Agni Kai.
Agni Kai?
Agni is Og. It's fire.
Oh, wow. I know Sozin comes from like Farsi, and also it comes from Chinese, like because I was like Sozin is like something in Mandarin, but then Sozin also means something in like Farsi. So it's kind of like they also kind of put some Middle Eastern elements in there.
Yeah.
I noticed some of the extras like and the soldiers as well. They looked Middle Eastern, so I think they're sort of kind of doing like this Pan-Asian sort of situation where it's
Yeah.
like,
And
yeah,
in
it's
the
interesting.
animation, we all we got, someone just mentioned it, was Guru Patik. That was the only brown guy.
Yeah.
Though
Well, I would say Booby, you could say is kind of a brown guy.
so in this he's
Booby,
definitely a brown guy. I don't
even
know even in the animated. So
he could, they changed his design. So that was
yeah,
what I was
I love
interested
his
because
fit. I
his
know people have issues with the actor and like the way he portrayed them or like maybe some of the lines, but the fit was fire. I
the
liked his
fit was
fit.
fire. The fit was absolutely fire. Honestly, after that episode, I was like, wait a minute, what did he look like in the animated series? Because he had horns on his head. He had this like weird like
Yeah.
hat thing. And so like they made his design like completely Indian, even though he was already like a darker skinned man like in
Yeah.
the series. So his ethnicity, we didn't really
Oh, you're
know.
right. He was darker skinned.
He
Now
was
that you're
darker
saying it, I remember.
skinned.
Yeah.
And I think what's his name? The Indian actor that played him did a phenomenal job
Yeah, yeah.
as
I
Billy.
think he did a good job. I think
Utkarsh.
people did have an issue with the relationship between him and Aang because he was supposed to be like
Mm,
testing Aang the entire
yeah,
time, and they did it a little differently. And I know people had issues with
yeah.
that, but I did like the actor and I did like the fit. And
I
I'm
feel
glad
like
about the
they
representation.
And I feel like they did that because it wouldn't have been as believable if it had been like exactly like it was in the animated series where
Mm.
he was testing him. I
Yeah.
I don't think it would have translated to live action.
Yeah.
I kind of actually again, I'm like I'm giving the show so many concessions, maybe as sort of like a what's the word, devil's advocate or something, but
Yeah. Fair.
I'm just
Fair.
trying to, just kind of push back a little bit because I think I would say, we can't get them all, and I would say this is like the most exciting adaptation of a show that has like
Yeah.
come out in a very long time. So I guess but it's important to be critical too, but
Yeah, yeah, I totally
yeah.
agree. What are your thoughts about the grandmother doing the four nations who lived in harmony? She did the intro.
Oh,
I
dude.
like part of me was like, yes, they did it, but then another part of me was like, why does this sound a little cringe?
It was definitely cringe. It was like, yeah, and then like I remember my sister was saying something like she had veneers or something, and like it was kind of like, okay, you have these like white veneers like her teeth. It was like, why does this Native American lady have veneers? I don't know. Like I remember like I was like, okay, honestly, fair, fair. Like this is
That's
300 years ago. They probably didn't have that type of technology back then for dental
that's
work.
true. That's really, really funny. Someone says, I appreciate how generous you're being, Miriam.
Oh my God, I
People, you've got a soft spot. I get it. I get
I
it.
definitely do. I definitely do. I mean, man, I just love the show so much, and I do feel like the creators who made it, I can tell that they really like it as well and they wanted to, but that could also just all yeah, yeah. Because anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. So we get into the show and the Fire Nation goes to the village that Sokka and Katara live in. They don't want to give them up, but Aang kind of surrenders himself. He gets captured. Then he escapes. with Appa. He also throws a little bit of a fit when he doesn't know where Appa is, which I think is great because we know what happens when he loses Appa. That's his homie. You don't mess with Appa.
Mm,
You don't like tug on Superman's cape, and you don't mess with Appa. So
literally.
I was glad to see that. They went to the air temple and we met Momo. So shout out to Momo, which I thought was
Momo.
cool. I'm glad we didn't get rid of Momo. I'm glad we got to see him. I thought that was really really cool. And we saw.
Yeah. I will say, I just want to say, like, it, okay, like CGI, I mean, it is what it is. I do feel like it's sometimes kind of like it's hard to see like this like little characters where they're up close, like in CGI. It just kind of takes me out of it. But I don't know if there's much we can do with that. So
I feel like we
we
didn't see Momo enough to
we didn't
actually
see him
care.
enough. Exactly,
I didn't care if
exactly.
the CGI was bad.
Yeah.
I liked the CGI for Appa. I thought Appa came out looking good.
Appa was, yeah, and
Yeah.
like the voice acting for Appa as well, very good. Like his, yeah,
I didn't even realize Appa had a voice.
voice, I don't know, whatever the sounds they did,
Yeah.
digital Appa.
Okay. So Katara, she gets these notes from her grandmother with some water bending techniques. So
Yeah.
she's learning her little water bending yoga, and she's on her journey. And then we meet the Kyoshi warriors. I really love the makeup and the costumes of the Kyoshi
Yeah.
warriors. Some people said like Aang looks like he's cosplaying Aang, but the Kyoshi warriors looked good.
They looked amazing. They looked so good. Even a friend of mine was saying that the waterbender outfits were like too like the coats look too thin and flimsy.
Yeah.
They're like to certain like they need like thicker coats. They need to look like, Inuit people,
Yeah.
kind of like with, yeah, and honestly I feel that because it is live action, you have to make it like a little more believable. So, yeah. But no, I love the Kyoshi warrior design
I
for
love the
sure.
show. I think the
Yeah,
person that they got
it's
to play Suki was great. I
she
think
was
she did a great
great.
job. The chemistry with Sokka I thought
So
was off
good.
the charts. Like the way they kind of were flirting and
I
talking to
know.
each
I
other.
was like, okay, whoa.
Yeah,
It's only episode 2, guys.
yeah, I know, I know. And it's like the animated series. Like Sokka just has that charm, and all the girls like him.
Yeah.
It's a little crude, but people do say that he has also a bending technique
Oh my God.
because he gets so many women. That's his
I would love
superpower.
I want to see that more like later on in the like other
Yeah,
seasons, I guess. I hope there's a season 2 like
yeah.
yeah. And I
I
love they did the whole homage to like Sokka with his hair down because that's like a meme
oh
online. Like,
really?
so like they literally did like a close up of him like washing his face and his hair was down. Like that's like all
Oh,
like, yeah, like all the girls kind of like see him with his hair down, they like go crazy. So it's like it's so funny that
interesting.
they did that.
Interesting. I like that. I did think they have a good connection. And then we get to see Kyoshi the Avatar, and Aang gets to talk to her, and then she gets taken over by Aang. Very badass, as we would expect, nothing less. Kyoshi is really a lot of people's favorite avatar, in my opinion. She has a fan base. She has a huge fan base.
Mhm.
And one of the things that everyone loves about her is what's the word? Without justice, there can be no peace. I think that's her quote.
She did say that. And
Yeah.
literally parallels.
Hmm.
Like I was like,
I've gone to rallies and people have Kayoshi's picture with that sign on there.
oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that next time I go to a rally.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you for
People
the
do that.
idea.
Yeah. I've
Oh
seen
my
it.
God. I
Yeah.
love that. It's either gonna be Kyoshi or it's gonna be Aang.
Yeah.
But Kyoshi is amazing. And what did you think of like her coming out and defeating the whole, the Fire Nation and all of that? Like it wasn't Aang, in his state. It was
Yeah.
like Kyoshi.
I mean, I felt like that's what the story needed because Aang is not there yet. Aang would not be able to defeat the Fire Nation. Uh, and it's
Yeah.
also like he is a kid and he's like, hey, I don't have to learn to be the avatar. Why can't you just take over my body and do everything for me, right? And I think that was really important. We realized what a kid he is and how he looking for the easy way out, which is his arc. That's what he needs to grow up and realize. So I like
Mhm.
seeing that. I thought it was important to see
Mhm.
that.
That's so interesting because, yeah, I wasn't expecting her to be like, all right, let me just show you how this is done.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wait a minute. um, but no, you're right. I think it was it wasn't it like it kind of needed that because again, like I keep going back and forth from like the cartoon to like now, but like it's just there's certain things because with a live action show, there's not this suspension of disbelief that there is in an animated show. You know,
Mm,
like an animated show, there's a lot more forgiveness. There's more because it's animated, right?
yeah.
There is a suspension of disbelief, and that's not the same. We don't get that same like affordance, you know,
Yeah,
with live action.
I get that. No,
Yeah,
I definitely
so
get that.
that just
Uh,
like is weaved throughout all the choices that they've been making. That's just like I
mhm.
keep thinking, you know, that's like constantly like there.
Totally. Nuv says in the animated, Ruko takes over Aang in an episode, and they just did it with Kyoshi here, so he thought it was awesome. Also, every time
Mhm.
somebody says Ruku, I think of the app like
Roku from
Roku.
like
Yeah,
10 years ago or something. Like
yeah. I still have
Roku
a
this.
Roku. It's
Oh,
so funny.
do people still have those? Because I used to have one like
I
like 10
have
years ago.
one. I definitely
Okay,
have one.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
Roku. Yeah.
the next episode is Umashu, and in
Yes.
that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
that's the one where we meet Azula. We talked about that a little
Yeah.
bit, but we also meet another fan favorite, and that's Jet.
Oh my God.
A lot of people, they shipped Jet and Katara, and we got to see them. And this idea of people who consider themselves freedom fighters while other people consider them terrorists, I think is also another parallel that I find it very interesting. And
Mm,
not everyone agrees with their methods,
mm-hmm.
which I
Yeah.
think is very, very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, when they planted the bomb on, you know, oh, sorry, what's this character?
The
The
mechanic,
Mechanist. Yeah, the
yeah, mechanist.
mechanic. Yeah, like they planted the bomb on him. Like, I guess, like, like because the thing is, in the animated series, Jet was attempting to blow up a town, like blow up a dam that was going to kill innocent people. So it's a
Yeah,
completely different story, and I really think the this show kind of went off the rails a bit with that. Like I don't know if it necessarily in a bad way, but maybe because it was like they completely changed Jet's storyline, and I was a little disappointed. I really think they should have kept it to where he was trying to maybe blow up like that mining town, blow up the dam, and there was like this risk of like innocent people. This was the mechanist going to the king,
yeah.
and we already know Omashu and Basing Se as well. They're very much like, you know, the lower classes at the bottom and then it kind of
Mhm.
goes up. Like it's, you know, it's clearly like
They're
we could
kind of
tell
like,
it's a
uh,
rundown
again,
city.
like the parallels is kind of like Saudi Arabia and Israel. Like they're kind of like, they're not the same, but like they they turn a blind eye to a lot of things, right?
You
Because
know what?
Boston.
I'm gonna say that they whitewashed it. I think they
Mm,
could have made it, they sanitized it. I really think they should have made it like the actual animated series, made it
yeah,
have been like in a mining town. Very honestly, that's probably one of my biggest gripes as well, because we didn't also Aang and Sokka didn't even really get to meet Jet. It was like
yeah,
so weird.
it
So
was
honestly,
weird.
okay, to be honest with you, I kind of hated that episode. Okay, now we're coming out with the fire.
Ooh, so here's
Honestly,
my
I
thing
kind
though.
of did not like it.
Here's
The
one thing
only
I
redeeming, yeah, go
one
ahead.
thing I have to say, the guy that got to play Jet looked so much like Jet.
He
Like
did.
he looked the part really,
He
really
did.
well.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
got the
yeah.
straw. I think the whole crew
His acting was
was
good.
good. The whole crew was really, really good. But I
Yeah.
agree with you're saying. I feel like there should have been more at stakes, and it would have made the parallels even better because there are people who have to. I don't want to say have to, but there are people who do make choices that are questionable
Oh.
and that are wrong, and it's interesting to see that you can't just like,
Ooh.
you know, you can't just like, I don't know, like give them excuses. I don't know. I thought it was different.
Yeah, it was very much like it was very much giving like American apologist sort of like
Yeah.
let me just sanitize this narrative for the masses, just like our media is doing about the genocide every single minute of our waking lives.
Hmm.
You know, sorry, I'm just going at it because I can rant, but no, like you know, we see this in the mainstream media every single day. No one tells the truth. And I just was very, honestly, very disappointed. I was like, dang, no wonder I kind of lost interest after episode 3 because I was like, dude, why did they sanitize Jet so much? Like, like, that was the whole draw of his character. He was literally,
Yeah.
episode 4 was where they lost me. Thanks, Jazz. Yeah, no, Like literally, he was only planning to take the bomb to the king,
Yeah.
and we didn't really learn about his motives. Honestly,
Well,
I
we
have
we
to
did know that his mom died,
yeah,
and
but I'm like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, his mom died, and but the thing is, he could have been such a more complex character if he
yeah,
was actually trying. If there were innocent people that were getting harmed in the way when there
yeah,
were not, and he was actually targeting leaders. In
yeah,
the in honestly, I would say episode 10 of book one, Water of the animated show. Honestly, was called Jet. Honestly, one of my all time favorite episodes. I really like that episode,
yeah,
and so for them to honestly ruin it, I was really disappointed with that because, like, I mean, you don't get any sense of the mining town. You don't get any sense of like Sokka and Aang like getting to know Jet and being a little like it's just Jet's like in a whole like okay yeah
yeah,
he looked the part, but I mean that's not enough. Like his only scenes were with Katara,
yeah,
and he didn't have any scenes with Aang or I was like, dude, this is really like disappointing, man. That
yeah.
2 out of
I
10 for
get what you're
me.
saying, and like I also feel like this is how I feel about Star Wars a lot too, because the movies kind of like whitewash the rebels and they don't make them like questionable enough. They try to give them like squeaky clean images, and they're like
Yeah.
everything they're doing is justified. But whereas the
Oh.
animated series, the Clone Wars, give us Saw Gerrera, who is also a rebel, but he makes really tough choices and he does things that other people would
Mm,
consider terrorism. So like it makes
mm,
the character more complicated. And I feel like
yeah.
that's what they took away from Jet here.
Exactly. My God. I was because the thing is he's gonna come out later. We're gonna see his arc with Lake Lao guy. We're going to see him, captured as a prisoner of war. We're going to see his mental state like
Yeah.
decline. We're gonna see all that. So it's like we want Jet to have heart. Like if he doesn't have heart, he's not like it's just
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very disappointing. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
like they took out the heart of the series and if Bryke wanted a different episode, like I can absolutely see why.
So
Because
here's the thing. The reason I like this episode
mm,
is because we get the cabbage guy.
oh my god,
Oh my god, my
amazing!
cabbages.
Oh my god,
And
so
it's
good.
the same voice actor. It's the voice actor from the animated series.
No,
Yes. They got
no.
the voice actor to
Oh my
act as the
god,
cabbage guy.
I am screaming like that. Oh my god, I am so. That's
When his
amazing.
cabbages are on fire, I was like, this is all I wanted from this episode. This is so good. And then in
Oh
Legend of Korra, we find out he has like an empire. It's just like I love this running gag. It's my favorite
yeah.
part.
Oh my god, that is. Oh my god, I love that so much. How did I not know that? That's amazing. Wow,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, wow,
Big
incredible.
fan of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So in this one, who else did we meet? We do meet Mai, we meet Ty Lee, and then we meet the freedom fighters, and then there's a fight with Zuko that happens right before the cabbage thing happens,
Mm.
and then we have the assassination attempt, and then we go into the fourth episode, which is where a lot of people are lost in the secret tunnels.
Oh,
I did enjoy that. Okay. I know everyone didn't like that. I like the hippies and I like the fact that we got the song. I was happy about that.
oh my god, I honestly like I died like with joy like when I saw them. I was like, "Yes! I
I,
love this."
I wonder if they were the same voice actors too because they sounded really
Sounded
close.
exactly like the guy who was singing, he looked exactly like the cartoon. Like I was like,
Yeah.
You're literally the cartoon." And like, oh my god, like that was so amazing.
Yeah, yeah. No. And then Aang is in prison for the
But then
fight and
they
so is
took
Iroh.
Aang away. He's not part of their tunnel journey. And
Yeah, they
the
took him
whole
away.
Cave of Two Lovers. I was like, okay, weird. I mean, how did you feel about that? How did you feel about the switch up there? With
So I so yeah, I didn't really love the switch up. But I don't know if you noticed this. There was a change with uh Oma and Shu. I don't know if you
yes.
picked it
Yeah, I
up,
noticed I picked it up. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah.
both women.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, ooh,
I was like, okay.
spicy.
Uh,
Okay.
I
Rep-
honestly was not surprised at all, just given like, you know, I was honestly like, I was like, oh, okay, there's that. But then I'm like, I guess I'm kind of used to it now. Like, I feel like, you know, also because even given the history of Korra,
yeah.
she
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
bisexual,
Yeah.
right? And like literally at the end of Korra. And then I remember 10 years ago when that episode came out, it was so controversial and people were getting really upset. And now like no one would bat an eyelid, like that's just
Yeah.
normal. So they're probably yeah. I was
I
like,
thought that was,
I was like,
but it's like a blink and you'll miss it kind of situation. Like
yeah,
I thought I heard it, but then I was like, I must have misheard it. And then I saw someone make a TikTok of it, and I was like, oh shit, I guess I did hear it right. I was like,
yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
way. I thought
Yeah.
that was
I was
interesting.
like, because I was like, Korra's legacy, like literally, she's an avatar. She literally, that was her whole identity. I mean, and of course, it was something that was very subtle in the show because you didn't even
Yeah.
realize that Asami and Korra had like Korrasami, as their ship name is,
Yeah.
had romantic feelings for each other because she was like dating Mako.
Yeah.
Um, but then it's like at the end, they go into the spirit portal together, like, and are holding
Yeah.
hands. And you're like, oh, okay, so it's like 2 seconds, like also kind of a blinker you'll miss it thing, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I think
Yeah.
they were sort of like just like that legacy, kind of like trying to carry
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
I get that. I get that. But I think the biggest disappointment a lot of people had in this, despite the drip, was Boomy. I think a lot of people didn't like his and
Really?
Aang's connection. Yeah, I think justice for
Mm,
Boomy is a tag in our comment section right
really?
now, which I
Oh,
thought was really
wow.
interesting. Yeah, I wish Jazz was on here so he could talk a little bit more on it.
I know. We miss you, Jazz.
Yeah. But I do get that, like, their friendship and their story and the way he tests them, all that stuff wasn't done. I don't dislike it as much as other people, but I get it. I get it. Um,
I
but
mean, because I feel like Utkarsh, I don't know his last name, I forget. But anyway, like I feel like the actor, like he did like I think he did a pretty good job.
I don't
Like,
think it's him. I think he did a great job. I think the fact that they
yeah.
chose to go in a different direction with his character is what people have an issue with.
It could also be Aang. It could also be like Aang's acting, maybe, because like Aang is
Mm,
kind of like doesn't, like you were saying, like Aang doesn't have chemistry with like any
chemistry.
of the characters.
It's
I
like
think
he's
the only
reading his
character he
lines. It's not like he's acting his lines. It's like he's reading his lines, and it's not great.
the only character that I think he has like true chemistry with is Gyatso. But then only
Yes.
just Gyatso was my heart. Like Gyatso, oh my God, like
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah, no, Boomy, like it's such a weird relationship to begin with. Um, so yeah, it did kind of fall flat. If maybe they chose a better like child actor for Aang, not to be so blunt, but like if they had it, it would have
Th-
been
this is
better
the
too.
thing that people are saying. I don't think Boomy needed to be so bitter and resentful to Aang because he
Mm,
kept saying things like you left." Like, bro, you know that's not what happened. He was your friend. Like, I totally get that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that part is something that people did
that's
not
true.
like about Boomy, and that's the justice for Boomy. That's what that's about.
But like, do you think that like if let's say it was more like like the animated series where Boomy was really testing him, brought out Flopsy, his big pet rabbit, and all
Yeah.
that. If he was really trying to test him, do you think it would have translated to a live action? Um,
That's a
I don't
good
know.
question. That's a good question. I'm
I
not
because
sure.
like I was like almost thinking like and that could just be like an idea that I have that maybe isn't correct in this situation, but I'm just like, huh, like how would this have been better? I do think some of it is related to Aang's acting because I'm wondering if but then, yeah, Boomy being resentful. I
Mhm.
mean, it was, but again, that's where I go back to like the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Because with like the animated series, with a cartoon, you can just, there's a lot of suspension of like belief that comes through. But then with a live action, you have to make it a lot more realistic. You have to
Yeah,
make it
that's
like, it
fair.
has to feel fully real. You have to feel like, hey, this is an environment I can see myself in, like even like I just want to comment on the visual design of Omashu
Yeah.
for a moment because I honestly got really excited when I saw Omashu as like a Indian city,
Yeah.
right? It could be or even like Middle Eastern too. Like you have like the bazaar and also like the saris. Did you see like the
Yeah,
saris?
I
Like
saw the
oh my
saris,
God,
yeah.
like Aang and Zuko's fight in the sari fabric. I was like, wow, this is so
That was
cool.
cool.
I love that.
I know a
But it
lot of
was
people saying they lost him in this episode, but there's a lot of things I like. And one of my favorite dialogues are in this scene, and it's with that Earthbender and Iroh. And I think that is so important. And I think this is the one thing they improved upon from the animated series because we don't go into the fact and really understand that our beloved Iroh is a fucking war criminal. He is a war criminal. He is the dragon of the West. He's killed countless people. Yes, he has his redemption arc. Yes, he's this person now and he's this amazing person. But like the back and forth that he had with that Earthbender guard really made you understand that he is not always been a good person. He has been a very bad person
Yeah.
in his
Yeah.
life. And I really, really like that scene. I really, really did like
Mm.
that scene. What are your thoughts
What
about
did
that?
what did you think of like yeah, like with Iroh saying kind of like he sort of was like challenging the soldier a little bit and you could tell that there was sort of like he was getting up, angry with the soldier about like why, like there was a touch of that. What did you think of like that? I don't remember his exact things that he said,
I
but like
I think the anger wasn't directed towards the guy. It was more towards
mhm,
like this is war and war sucks, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't agree with that. I feel like there's accountability there. There's you did this horrible thing, Iroh. And there is a part of Iroh. We love Iroh, but there is this small part where I feel like he's not 100% taking accountability. He's like,
No,
well, it was war.
that
And
yeah,
that makes him imperfect. And I like that. I
yeah,
like that he is
yeah,
an imperfect character because in the animated
yes.
series, it comes off like he's this perfect person who just
Mm,
happened to do all these horrible things. But like we
That's
never see the gravity of what he's done.
That's a actually really important point, and you could even say that maybe that's something that the live action has kind of improved upon
I do. I
potentially.
really do think the live action has improved on this and one other thing I think they improved on, and they really go into why Zuko means so much to him because we see it in Lu Ten's funeral, and I think that scene was so good where Zuko comes up to him and says, he was the bravest person I know, and you could tell that Iroh really, really needed that. And it's one of those things where, like in the cartoon, in the animation season, he does say that Zuko has done more for me than you'll ever know, but they never really say what it was. And then we have this funeral scene where, like,
Mm,
the worst thing that could
mm.
ever happen to anyone in this world is losing a child, and that's what happened to Iroh. And here is his nephew being there for him and just happens to say the words that he needed to hear. And I think that was done so well. So like I know people don't like this episode, but like there are some gems in this episode if you look closely.
They created those 2 scenes, those were not from the animated show,
Yeah.
so for them to actually, like, add that nuance, I mean, I'm excited for Iroh and Zuko's relationship, I feel like they're kind of gonna carry the show in a way, because, yeah, that is absolutely the highlight of the, Netflix adaptation, absolutely,
Yeah.
like you
So like
said.
my overall thing with this show is it has a lot of hits, but it also has a lot of misses. And overall, I
Yeah,
still think there's a lot of potential in this show. Was it like the best thing
yeah,
ever?
yeah,
No.
yeah,
Were there some parts that were cringe? Yes. Were there some people whose acting needs a lot of work? Yes. But I don't think this show is a flop. I don't think
yeah,
it's a miss. I think
yeah,
it's just a mixed bag. And I think the
yes,
mixed reviews are valid because that's what I have
yes,
with this show. But
yes.
I believe in it. I think there's potential.
I believe in it too. I think there's a lot of potential. I think majority of the actors are pretty good, and also I think Aang and Katara will get better. If
I think so
Netflix
too.
renews this, they'll
Like
they'll improve. Yeah.
if like I'm a Star Wars fan and Hayden Christensen was terrible in
Mm,
Clone Wars and Jake Lloyd
mm,
was terrible in A Phantom Menace, but when you get to Revenge of the Sith, like it's some of the best Star Wars ever. I hate you. Like you have betrayed me. Like there's some of the best lines. Like he does get better.
mm,
And
mm.
I think we could see that potential here. Like who knows? Next season
Yeah.
Aang might be amazing. Katara might be amazing. We don't know. They have a
Yeah.
full year of like,
Yeah.
taking in some of this like criticism and being like, I need to put some work in and
Yeah.
getting some acting lessons and, taking different
Yeah.
approaches with their acting.
Exactly. And like the show is gonna have to like hold on its own. Like even with Katara, like I think just kind of accepting that no, she's never going to be exactly like the Katara that we know and love.
Yeah,
Like she's gonna be her own thing. Because she does come across as a lot more muted. Her performance is like more quiet and like Katara was not that. Katara was like super like outspoken. She literally led a prisoner rebellion. Like
yeah,
she and I was also very disappointed that we didn't get to see, and I know we're not seeing it the whole season, that we didn't get to see the prisoner sort of like where she basically frees the prisoners, like on
oh
that earth,
yeah,
the earthbenders that were prisoners of war on
yeah,
the Fire Nation ship.
yeah,
She leads that whole rebellion.
yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure that was book one. I'm pretty sure that
I
was
think so
yeah,
too.
yeah, book one with Haru. So yeah, no, that was very disappointing. Did not get to see that. So, but the way that she is right now would not, that type of story arc would not lend to like her personality as it is now.
Yeah,
We're very much like focusing on Katara, and I really want to focus on Katara here too because she unfortunately is like, kind of lost amidst all these other like strong male characters. And she doesn't necessarily get like that appreciation really in this show. And I think that's really unfortunate because she was definitely the beating heart of the animated show.
yeah.
Um and we don't get to see, the her leading the prisoner riot, which is a huge character arc for her. I'm excited to see how she comes into her own with training under Master Paku in the Northern Water Tribe. So that'll be interesting.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. All right, cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to
later
get
on.
into spoilers, but we'll get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's
I haven't
interesting.
watched it at all, but
Oh,
like
good,
I
good.
know that's coming. I know that's coming in a few episodes.
All right, cool.
But
Well,
yeah.
that's really everything that I have.
All right.
I think
Yeah.
this was fun. I really
This
enjoyed it.
was
I
fun.
feel like this was a very fair review. We talked about the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And overall, I think my takeaway is it has potentials, but we definitely got some hits and misses. And
Yeah.
how do you feel?
And my takeaway as well is that like it's gonna have to be a show that stands on its own, like you mentioned, really good point of like they added in these extra scenes that were not in the animated series with Zuko and Iroh, and so it's gonna have to like hold on its own. We can't like it's not gonna be direct like copy paste obviously of the series of the
Yeah.
cartoon. So I do have potential. I'm waiting out to see Katara. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical there, but I think, yeah, I have hopes. Reasonable. Yeah,
All right, cool.
I think, yeah,
So
I'm
there you have
excited.
it. There you have it, guys.
Yeah,
Let us know what you think. Sound
yeah,
up in the comments. Let us know. And slide into my DM, whatever. Let me know what you thought about this episode, what we didn't cover, and don't forget to tune in next week when we cover episode 5 through 6. No, 5 through 8, I believe. Yeah. All
I
right.
will definitely be in the comments. I will be in the
Well,
comments for that.
Well, Miriam, thank you
Yeah,
so much for joining us. I
yeah,
had so much fun talking to you about this.
yeah,
Thank you for all your insight and all the cool stuff that you talked about and you knew. And everybody, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys,
guys,
Salaam nerds.
and free Palestine.
Yes, sir.